What's going on, everybody? It's Pixelated, and today we are taking a look at another headset that is part of Sony's new PC-focused line of gaming peripherals, specifically gaming headsets. That is the Inzone H3, and we're going to be taking a look at it and testing it against the PS5 so we know how well it performs against the PS5's 3D audio engine, the Tempest 3D audio. We've been doing this quite a while on this channel. I just noticed the cord is stuck in there now. That just looks silly, but I did mention that this is more of Sony's somewhat PC-centric offering. These are designed to perform well with the PC, and they also aesthetically somehow match the PS5. There's no PlayStation branding on the packaging at all. It's not even blue, it's purple. These are clearly not marketed just towards PlayStation owners. However, they can still be used with the PlayStation. You can clearly tell this aesthetic is very PS5 friendly. So while this is considered one of Sony's first PC-centric offerings, you know we test these headsets against the PS5 on this channel most of the time, if not all the time. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to be testing these with the PS5. We're not going to be testing them with the PC, but if that's something you want, you can definitely let me know in the comments and I can look into it. So will the Sony Inzone H3, Sony's PC-centric headset offering, perform well on PS5's 3D audio engine? Before we get into the review and find out, make sure you slice that like button so you happen to enjoy. If you happen to enjoy the video at any point, make sure to karate chop that subscribe button for more videos. And make sure to, make sure to seppuku that noti bell so you don't miss out on future videos. At any point, if you think the Inzone H3 is for you, I've left a link in the description where you can go ahead and check it out. Alright, let's get into the review. Okay, starting off with the comfort, this headset is super lightweight, and I like that about this headset. It's somewhat bulky looking. Even though it is very bulky looking, it's actually very lightweight. You can feel it or you can not feel it when you put it on your head. The Sony Inzone H3 has very plush, padded ear cups right here. They're very well padded. They're made of fabric, which is my preference over leather ear cups because it helps prevent moisture and sweat and heat buildup. While they do feel great on your ears and fabric ear cups is my preference, I do feel like these don't prevent as much moisture buildup as the Steel Series fabric does. There's just something about it. It's also because it has an inner pleather lining that helps seal in the sound. So while there is a benefit to that, it does sort of allow heat and moisture to build up a little quicker on this headset versus something that would have an all fabric ear cup. Moving on to the fit, we have these adjustable notches on the headband. There's no visual telling you how many notches you're up or down, so you'll never know visually what your fit is, but once you figure out how many notches your perfect fit is, you will really enjoy this headset on your head. You also have a foam padded pleather headband right here, and while that's a great addition to this headset for it to feel comfortable on your head, the main factor in this feeling comfortable on your head is how lightweight it is. And while there are a lot of things about this headset that make it comfortable, there is one thing that's sort of a mixed bag, and that is the clamping force. There's no clamping force on this thing at all. It's almost non-existent. As soon as you put it on, you'll feel the jiggle when you're wiggling your head around. It'll feel like it's always ready to fall off at any instant. Now, it's not that big of an issue because when you're gaming, you're relatively sedentary, you're relatively stationary. But if you do decide to sort of look down to pick something up, or if you have to turn your head really quickly, you might notice that this thing will shift a little bit and it might feel a little bit of discomfort. You just gotta adjust it back. The upside to that is you'll never feel fatigue from too much clamping force. So that's why I say it's a mixed bag, because although it encourages comfortable gaming, it can also be a source of annoyance for some. One thing I did notice on these is that the ear cups are slightly smaller than what you get on the Inzone H7 and H9, and that really boggles my mind. I don't know why they would do that, just because I don't know how much of a cost saving that really is. I don't know if that cost saving is really for the customer or if they're doing this on purpose so that when you buy these, you realize that these ear cups might be too small for some of you. They're definitely too small for my ears, and it might convince some people who have already made this purchase to return these and go ahead and get the more premium headset. Although that does sound like a far-fetched theory. These theories always are far-fetched. It's just something I think about. It's probably not true, but it definitely feels that way. Okay, moving on to audio quality. I want to get this out of the way right off the bat. This headset came with a second piece. It is this little thing right here with a USB port on one end and a sound card on the other with a 3.5mm audio jack. You just plug in the 3.5mm jack into it and connect the USB port to whatever device you want to. Initially, I tried doing this with the PS5 and the volume was extremely low to the point that it really was unplayable with the audio volume that it was at. So immediately I disconnected this and just plugged the 3.5mm jack into the controller. You guys should do the same. And after doing some research, I realized that this thing is actually designed for the PC. So if you're connecting this headset to your PC, you can then use this device right here, the sound card with a USB port at the end. It allows the headset to be used with the Inzone app on your Windows computer because you can't download it on the Mac. But if you're buying this for your PS5, disregard this piece right here. You will get a significantly higher max volume connecting the headset directly to your controller. So even though you might think, oh, it's not designed for this, but I'm going to use it like this anyway with the USB connected to the PS5, don't do it. It's not worth the effort. It's not worth your time. Now, when it comes to the audio quality of the Inzone H3, I have to say it has a very well-balanced sound with the high ends pronounced quite a bit more so than the lower end and the mid-range, but the lower end and the mid-range are still pretty level. It's a pretty flat sound signature. You're not going to get anything exciting out of it, to be honest. My personal preference, I would expect something with a little more mid-range and a little more bass, but you do get a little bit of character with the pronounced high ends. For example, in a game like Warzone, the pronounced high ends help me with the footsteps and directional audio when I'm trying to pinpoint where an enemy is. At the same time, I wasn't having an extremely amazing audio experience with this headset or just anything relatively good. Of course, the new Warzone has its own audio issues, so discounting all of that, when the audio worked properly, this headset was great at pinpointing enemies. If you're buying this headset for games like FPS shooters or multiplayer games where you need to know where the enemy's direction is at a moment's notice, then this headset will be fine for you. However, when playing games like Spider-Man Miles Morales, I did the street walk test that I always do to listen to ambient sounds, hear pedestrian conversations and the rumbling of cars and idling of cars, all these little sound effects I try to pick up. It did a good job of pinpointing where those sounds were coming from. It's not the best I've heard on a headset, but it's actually not as bad as well. It's relatively clear. Again, the highs are more pronounced than the lower end and the mid-range, which means the rumbling of cars and those sort of lower end sounds that you would like to hear in action story games or single-player story-driven games, they won't be as pronounced. You won't get that sort of oomph of like a bassy or a lower end sound or like an explosion. I also notice when there are too many sounds going on in a game like Ratchet & Clank or Spider-Man Miles Morales, any sort of story-driven game or any game where a lot of things are going on around you, causing a lot of noise, they seem to sound a little unpleasant on this headset just because the highs are so pronounced. You get sort of all the highs merging together. Almost feels like there's a range limiter on the sound of this headset and it seems to limit everything into the high end. Now, while the immediate solution to this is obviously lower the volume, you don't want to keep lowering and increasing the volume when you're in a game. You want to keep it at a steady volume. Turning 3D audio off actually helped reduce that sort of issue with this headset when there's too much volume or too many sound effects going on for it to be unpleasant. However, it didn't completely negate the issue. The sound quality itself is pretty good. Everything is clear and crispy. Nothing gets distorted, even when it feels a little overwhelming. The upside of these high frequencies being pronounced is I noticed different sound effects in Spider-Man Miles Morales that I would never notice before. Like when Spider-Man is actually running around, I can hear his footsteps more, and for some reason, it just gives you something different than what's on every headset, so that's actually a good thing. And I tried the Inzone H3 with Returnal, which I think is the best test for headsets on the PS5, and it did a great job. Nothing was distorting. All the sound effects, the music, everything bombarding you at once. If it does feel overwhelming, when I reduce the volume, it feels fine. The point is, it's clear, it's crispy. While it does feel like there's a very strong range limiter on this headset, the audio quality itself is decent. Okay, moving on to the mic test.
Okay, so this is the mic test for the Sony Inzone H3. I'm trying to keep my volume at a medium to low level just because this mic seems to be quite loud. I actually have the volume at about quarter volume on the PS5's mic settings, and it's still this loud, so that's good if you speak really low or if you want to increase the volume quite a bit. The overall quality of this mic seems decent. It's clear enough that you'll have no issues communicating with your friends or teammates in a multiplayer game. It does feel a bit muffled, like you're speaking through a mic that's filled with mini cotton balls or something, so if you speak at lower volumes or if you have a deep voice, it might cause slight issues for you and your teammates when you're communicating. But overall, I don't see this to be a big issue or something to be concerned about. It does a good job of blocking out low ambient sounds, like when you're breathing in and out at normal volumes. But if you have a stuffy nose and you're breathing really deeply, or you're typing away at your keyboard during breaks in between games, just know your friends are hearing that. I do think I might actually prefer this mic and the quality of this mic at this price point versus the Inzone H9. Honestly, it might just be the same mic. So again, this is the volume of the mic at about quarter in the mic volume settings in the PS5. As you can see, it's quite loud, so adjust based on your speaking voice. I also should mention there is no side tones capability. There's no way to increase or decrease side tones or to have them at all. There's no side tones in this headset at all. And I do think that might be a technology limitation because I haven't seen any wired headset that goes straight to the controller have a side tones option.
Okay, moving on to the features, starting off with some quick tech specs. The Inzone H3 has a frequency range of 10 Hz to 20,000 kHz. It has 40mm dynamic drivers, which are pretty standard at this point. It has a mutable mic that you flip up to mute, you flip down to activate it once again. It's not a new feature by any means. It's not something revolutionary or an innovation, but it's a nice mechanism to have. So you know when your mic is mute, you know when it's not mute, especially on a wired headset. The next feature is this little extra piece right here, this sound card that you can use to connect your headset to the PC, and it allows this manual or analog headset rather to communicate with the Inzone app on your computer. While this doesn't benefit PS5 owners at all, it does make the sound a little better on the headset when you're able to adjust EQ settings and customize EQ presets that you can flip through whenever you're playing different games on the PC. And that's really about it. This is a wired headset that's designed for a little more affordability than the more expensive offerings in this product line, so there's really not much else we can expect here. Moving on to the price, the Inzone H3 is priced at $129.99 Canadian dollars. That's the retail price. I bought these while they were on sale for $98 Canadian. And to be honest, I think the sale price is a little more fair for this headset. Okay, moving on to the price, the Inzone H3 retails for $129.99 Canadian dollars. I bought this on sale for $98 Canadian dollars, and I think the sale price is a little more reasonable for this headset and for the features that you get with it, as well as the sound quality. I wouldn't recommend this at the higher price point. However, I know Sony probably wants to charge a more premium price just because it's Sony. It's got the nice aesthetic. It goes with the PlayStation 5, and I know a lot of people are fiending for a look that goes with the PlayStation 5, me included, so I can completely understand that. But if you're going for a budget headset at a certain price point, and that price point happens to be where this headset is like at the top, I definitely would not recommend this headset. I would recommend something like the SteelSeries Arctis 1P, which is a lot cheaper, and you will get a better audio experience, a more full range audio experience on your PS5. While this headset does perform well in terms of audio quality, I just think for a price of $129.99, I would expect more out of the audio quality. Again, I can't speak to the external sound card performance and its PC performance. Maybe that's where this one will differ from the SteelSeries Arctis Nova 1P. So if you're getting this headset for your PC and PS5, or just for your PC, then I can see where the value comes in. But if you're getting a headset specifically for your PS5, no PC interaction, I would sort of lean towards the Arctis Nova 1P. Again, I know some people are going to want this headset just for the aesthetic. Depends on who you are, what you want with this headset. Moving on to the design of the Inzone H3, I really actually enjoy the design of this headset. It complements the PS5 really well. Even though this line of products was designed for the PC, there are hints of being able to use it with the PS5, and the aesthetic is definitely one of those big hints. I love these white bulbous round ear cups, and I love this smooth sort of white headband and the black hits over here where it contrasts with the black ear cups, and the black headband is a clear indication of that same PS5 aesthetic flowing through into other Sony products. But one thing I don't like about this headset is this cheap feeling 3.5mm audio jack wire. This thing has to go, and obviously it can't go because they've already released the product, but maybe in a future iteration they'll adjust it. It's also a permanently connected cable, so if you manage to accidentally yank this too hard and it gets pulled out, which I suspect a lot of them will, you're basically carrying a piece of $129.99 Canadian dollar dead weight headset. This wire kind of reminds me of those like old Walkman earbuds you used to use with Sony Walkman. That might be too far back for some of you, but if you remember those were really cheap and they tend to break quite often. You had to replace those earbuds a lot. Sony clearly doesn't shy away from using their age-old technology on modern technology, but just because it feels nostalgic doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Overall, I'm really a fan of the aesthetic of the Inzone H3. I just wish they used a different wire, or they could have at least made it so that it disconnects and you could use different 3.5mm audio cables. Okay, moving on to the good and bad of the Inzone H3. The good is that it's got a strong PS5 aesthetic. It's a good looking headset regardless of whether you end up using it with your PS5 or your PC. It is a headset designed with wired connectivity in mind, and that's most likely for affordability, but it also means you never have to charge your headset. It'll never end up dying on you mid-game. I know some of you know that feeling of when a headset dies on you mid-game, but you want to keep playing, but you have to wait for it to charge. Not a good feeling. Next thing is, it's lightweight. I barely feel this thing on my head. And finally, it's got fabric ear cuffs, which is the best option in my opinion. It's really my preference when it comes to ear cuffs. It prevents heat, moisture buildup, as well as the buildup of sweat. Okay, moving on to the bad is the actual sound quality. Now, again, the sound quality is not the worst, but it could definitely be better. For the price point of this headset, $129.99 Canadian dollars, I've definitely heard headphones that have better gaming audio at a lower price point than this headset. I think this headset will probably do you justice more so on your PC than it will on a PS5. So if you're getting it for your PC, then I can somewhat justify that price for you, but if you're getting it for your PS5, I'd say look at your options. If you really still love the aesthetic, then that might be the one time you want to go for this headset. The next is this thin 3.5mm audio jack wire. It's permanently connected, which means once you accidentally yank it once or twice and it gets pulled out, this headset, it's over for you. You spend $129.99 Canadian dollars and it's going down the drain. It also feels somewhat flimsy and reminds me of the Sony Walkman headsets from way back in the day that used to break very often. And finally, the mic quality on this headset is nothing to write home about. In fact, it's something to write negatively about, and that's what I did. So I do wish they could have went with a better mic on their headset, but this is also the more affordable headset in their product line, so I can understand partially why the mic quality is where it's at. That's my review of the Inzone H3. While it does have its flaws, it also has decent audio quality, and the aesthetic matches your PS5 or anyone else's PS5, which is something I've been looking for in a headset for quite a long time. Will you end up getting this headset, or do you know anyone that's gonna get this headset? Or are you gonna just pass on it for now? If you do feel like this headset is for you, I've left a link in the description where you can go ahead and check it out. Catch you in the next one. Pixelated is in the zone for the second time.